Hello everyone, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 50 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we end our countdown of the top 50 matches in NXT history with match number 1 on our list. In my opinion, the greatest NXT match ever wrestled, and that is the NXT title match between the champion Andrade Almas and the challenger Johnny Gargano from the NXT TakeOver Philadelphia event held on January the 27th of 2018. When this match happened, this was Royal Rumble weekend 2018, a big weekend that I think all wrestling fans, look forward to each year. I, in a way, prefer the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania even. It's always very exciting for me. Having the TakeOver that weekend too, there was a lot of hype here. When this match happened, I thought it was the best match ever wrestled in a WWE ring, be it main roster, NXT, whatever you want to call it. I've talked a lot about Johnny Gargano. He's appeared in a lot of these matches. I haven't run the numbers yet, but probably the most out of, any competitor on this countdown. The match where he wins the title from Adam Cole, probably, his biggest moment in NXT. Maybe, beating this one is, the win that he had over Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver New York, at TakeOver New Orleans. But I think this goes maybe right underneath that one. And it's funny because it's a match that he lost. So, you think of the title win for DIY over the Revival and all of these big moments that this man had throughout his career in the WWE and in NXT, that a loss, could be on there. But this was the match where it truly felt like this guy, had ascended to the next level and, was the biggest babyface star that NXT had. And it was only a matter of time before he would get his moment in the sun and get a title run, and be the defending champion that he was, for the Dragon Gate USA Open, the Freedom Gate title, and get this big lengthy run that unfortunately he would never get. But this match, Johnny Gargano is so good because he can be, kind of, underneath heel that has to cheat and scrap and scrape and claw, to get his victories. Or, he could be kind of like a funny, jokey comedy heel, or he can be one of the best babyface wrestlers, in my opinion, that I've ever seen. He just has such a way of connecting with the audiences that he wrestles in front of, that it becomes almost impossible not to root for the guy. And Andrade, on the flip side, Andrade is so cool in this era of NXT. But, he is this, slimy kind of heel. He's got Zelina with him, but her constantly running interference. There was such a good act. And despite, how cool and attractive that they were, they were very easy to root against. So you take, Andrade as this heel champion, with his manager, and you take Johnny Gargano as the ultimate babyface, and you have two strong wrestlers that have incredible chemistry with each other, as proven already. I had their NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3 match, already in this countdown very early on. And you give them a main event spot, and you give them, 35 minutes to work with like they had in this match. And you have a hot Philadelphia crowd, one of the best places for a wrestling crowd. And you have what is a classic, unforgettable main event. And it's funny because, Dave Meltzer, he broke his star ratings, with New Japan matches and, became very, apt to throw out the 5 stars for a lot of matches. But from 1997 onward, he never did it with a WWE match. Although there were some that, people would debate that, should have gotten that. He was never one to do it. And this match, finally kind of uncorked that, drought that the WWE had for a Meltzer 5-star match. So, I mean, up to you, how credible you think his rankings are or his ratings are. But, it just goes to show, how this match was so transcendently good to so many different audiences. Myself, Meltzer, internet fans, the fans in Philly, just everybody that was watching it. And in this match, it goes kind of lengthy. It almost, in a way, so maybe this isn't a surprise that he gave 5 stars. It almost, in a way, feels a bit like a New Japan main event match. So, for you personally, watching this 4 years later, you may not get as much out of it as I did at the time, and therefore, I get watching it back. It kind of, puts me back into that moment in the performance of Gargano, especially. If you're somebody that's kind of, grown tired of the New Japan main event, Okada, Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, kind of formula, then maybe this match won't connect as much with you, and maybe you won't put it as number one. And, it's funny because I hadn't rewatched this match until I started, reviewing all of the NXT stuff for this countdown. And I, on paper, if you asked me what I think my favorite NXT match was, I would have went to this. But while doing the reviews, I had no idea how it would hold up. And I thought, it would no doubt make the top 50. It would probably be on the higher end of that top 50, but I didn't know if it would hit that number one spot. And I mentioned this in the video the other day with the Sasha and Bayley, Iron Man match. I watched that one and I thought there is no way that anything will beat this match. It was too good. And then I watched this again and somehow it did it. It recaptured all of that magic that it had for me when I initially watched it. And I fell in love. And, I mentioned this in a comment on the video about the DIY Revival 2 out of 3 Falls match, where somebody had said that they preferred the Brooklyn match to that. And I understand that. I understand why somebody would feel that way. And I mentioned that the Brooklyn match, is one of the best, pull the rug out from underneath you as the fan, matches there could be, where it's a tough loss for the babyface you want to win, but you still feel, that they've learned and grown through that loss, or grew, I should say, through that loss, that, you still feel fulfilled with it. And that, that babyface is going to get another crack, at the title and may take it one day. And that's what this match felt like as well. You get that disappointment at the end when Gargano just can't hold on any longer and he, succumbs to defeat. Then you get, the shocking return of Tommaso Ciampa afterward. And that coming out of this match, Johnny Gargano should be a made man with the performance that he put in. And that doesn't always happen in the WWE. But here, thankfully, even if it was brief, Gargano would get, his moment in the sun. And have a great all-around NXT career. The match itself, it's incredible that, 4 or 5 months prior to this match, these guys were in the opener of a TakeOver, and now they were the main event. I've talked about Andrade kind of getting that shocking world title win over Drew McIntyre. So, he was at the top of NXT at this point, the apex of his overall WWE career. Gargano was kind of in this storyline where, he was in his own head, the ghost of Tommaso Ciampa. He couldn't find that kind of Johnny takeover, that Johnny wrestling that he wanted. Him and Andrade had another great match on TV where it was more of the same. But Gargano actually came back. He was slotted. They did this fatal 4-way match to determine the number one contender for TakeOver Philly. I believe it was Velveteen Dream that kind of, for whatever reason, couldn't wrestle in his qualifying match. Gargano kind of made a return in. He'd been off TV for a couple of weeks. Made his way into the fatal 4-way, won that, which was a great match that just narrowly missed out on the top 50 list. And was getting this title shot. So much like Andrade kind of getting the title shot out of nowhere against Drew and making the most of it, this felt like Gargano kind of getting this title shot out of nowhere, and maybe, history would repeat itself and we would get an upset and a new champion once again. The opening wrestling in this match is very clean. It's very good. It's very even. Andrade starts to ramp up the aggressiveness a little bit. He, backs Gargano into the corner. And then he hits just a big overhand chop that, floors Gargano, and it's brutal. And it shows that, he's got that killer instinct that maybe Gargano doesn't have because of all of these demons in his head. So Gargano tries to quicken the pace of the match, much like he did in Brooklyn. And he hits a diving run that sends Andrade to the floor. And he, tries a pescado, and they do this little fancy counter sequence on the floor. And Gargano ends up back on the apron, and he goes for, flipping senton off of it. And Andrade just simply moves. And Gargano splats on the arena floor. And makes that first pivotal mistake that you can't make against a guy like Andrade, because he will pounce all over that. And he proceeds to do that. He works the back, and Gargano is so good, selling the back, and, any offense that he tries the lawn dart, but can't hit it because of the bad back. He hits, this schoolboy kick that he does and sells the back after that. Gargano is trying to survive and he's trying to counter. So, Andrade goes for that hanging kind of Minoru Suzuki style armbar in the ropes that he's known for. And Gargano fights out of that, but then Andrade grabs it as a dragon sleeper instead, really wrenching on that bad back. So they start this backstory here. But eventually they do away with it. So a little bit of a mixed bag here. Where they're able to kind of stop with the the back is Gargano. He counters a trio double stomp that Andrade goes for, and he hits his big overhead belly to belly in the corner. And both guys sell that for a little while, and it allows the match to reset. Gargano kind of to stretch out the back, and then they don't really go back to that again. So there's two trains of thought here. That this match is going to go a little bit long. It established this early story of Gargano making a mistake and Andrade having this killer instinct, and they were able to kind of naturally have Gargano fight through that back pain with that reset after the belly to belly. But the other train of thought is, they started something and kind of quickly abandoned it. So, what was the point of having that back work, even though, it was only the opening, 5-6 minutes of the match. So you can kind of go either way with it. But the rest of the match is so good that to me it doesn't matter. Even if you look at it from a time filling perspective, I was able to kind of find it in the story of the match that it worked. But the rest it hooks you, hook, line, and sinker. That the back work that's forgotten about it really doesn't matter to me at all. If you're a little bit more anal about that stuff, maybe it will. But for me it didn't. Gargano, he kind of tries to work back into this match. He gets some strikes after that reset, after the overhead belly to belly. He gets a tornado flatliner for 2. He hits the slingshot spear for 2. He's rolling a little bit with his offense here. Andrade makes the comeback. These guys are those super indie style wrestlers, so they have all of these big, fancy moves that they do. Andrade counters a head scissors with kind of like a reverse powerbomb pancake sort of thing. Hits that Kota Ibushi style, double moonsault where he lands on his feet because the guy rolls away. Then he hits it from a standing position for 2. Andrade does this spinning back elbow. That's one of the weirdest moves because whenever he does it, it looks so uncoordinated to me at first. Because, if you think of like Nick Jackson, how he does that back elbow, he'll kind of swing his arm over the opponent's arm and then hit that big back elbow. But when Andrade does it, he does it by like feigning a kick. So he looks like he's going to do a forward kick, and then he hits this back elbow. But when he goes for the kick, it looks like he's kind of slipping as he spins into his back elbow. So I always think it's this weird, kind of like this baby giraffe, trying to move around, and then he's slipping. But then he always hits this great back elbow. He hits it in this match, probably the best he's ever hit it. It just levels Gargano. It looks so good. It bloodies up Gargano's mouth, and Gargano's mouth is so destroyed in this match that his like bottom lip is completely purple and like blood blistered, and it's really gross looking, but again adds, as Gargano later in the match fights from underneath as this resilient babyface, it just really adds this great visual to all of it. Andrade, really drives home the point that the El Idolo, his hammerlock DDT that he uses, is his kill shot. It's the move that won him the title from Drew McIntyre. It's a move he's used to beat Gargano before, and he goes for it countless times throughout this match. He tries to hit it, draping off the top rope like how he did to Drew, but that gets countered into a cheeky Nando's, Will Ospreay style super kick in the corner from Gargano. Gargano goes for the Jerry Lynn style kind of like, turn around sunset flip bomb out of the corner. Andrade backflips onto his feet and hits like a flash double knees out of nowhere. He goes for it again. Gargano evades it, tries to come in with the slingshot spear, which he hit earlier. Andrade turns that into the reverse kind of Wizard of Oz move that he does through the ropes, and then he hits, a tornado reverse DDT for 2. They did a sequence, almost identical to this in their Brooklyn match, so it was a nice little callback there. The crowd, was unglued at this point, with that big counter sequence. They were really, really into it, which was great. Andrade again goes for the El Idolo, this time on the ring apron, which would have been brutal. Gargano fights that off. Andrade then tries to go for like a Death Valley driver on the apron. Gargano fights that off, and he hits the one final beat, the slingshot DDT, onto the ring apron, which is another great reset move, much like the overhead belly to belly. where both guys sell for a while. Gargano, slowly able to get Andrade into the ring. Commentary does a great job selling, to beat the champion, you can't win the title by countout. He's got to get Andrade in the ring. He gets a 2 off that, which made sense with the big delay in the cover. But again, it allowed, this opportunity for Gargano to kind of rest and bring himself back into the match, almost this reset for him. Gargano, does the Gargano escape, right? That Border City stretch that he does. And he does it so good because he can hit that move out of nowhere, right? That submission and lock it on for these great kind of surprise, near submissions. But he also does a really good job at doing like a labored version of it where he really has to work to get his opponent's arm up over his head. I mentioned that he did this at the end of the 2 out of 3 falls match with Adam Cole where he won the title, and it felt like he really had to work for that submission to earn it. So there's a great moment where he, again, really works his way into that. But Andrade is able to kind of fight out, gets the back elbow again, which works so well for him earlier. Goes for the double knees in the corner again, but this time, Gargano sees it coming, hits a big lariat out of the corner, which sends Andrade, doing a complete flip. He finally gets the lawn dart that he couldn't hit earlier because of the bad back, and he goes for that, meet in the middle super kick, right? His part of the DIY finish. But this is the first time that Zelina Vega interjects herself in the match. She's able to distract Gargano. Remember, if you think back to their match at Brooklyn, it was this moment when Gargano was about to hit that kneeling super kick, which he threw the DIY straight at Gargano, and that led to Andrade winning. So they go back to that here, and it's so great because, she distracts Gargano, and Andrade flies in, with the big drop kick in the corner, just like he did in Brooklyn. He goes for the El Idolo, which is how we finished that match off, but Gargano this time counters it into a small package for a great 2 count, and then hits that kneeling super kick that he was going for, gets another great 2 count off of that. So it was all, really a really good callback, a really good tie-in, and a really good set of back-to-back near falls for Gargano. Andrade, he ends up countering Gargano, who's going to the top rope, and ends up hitting that Tree of Woe double stomp that he went for earlier, but all the way down to the ring apron and out to the floor, which was brutal. From here, he just, kind of really shows that killer instinct that they established earlier in the match and starts, pounding the back of Gargano's head into the LED ring apron. Gargano was so great at just selling, being completely concussed, from that. And like I mentioned, the blood blistered lips really add so much to it. Back in the ring, Andrade hits the double knees in the corner, and it only gets 2 for it. So again, a really great near fall after, a big series of moves. Gargano tries to do what he can to fight back in this match, and at this point, he's just going for punches, right? Nothing fancy. He's trying to do what he can to fight. He's being that, scrappy babyface that we love to see so much out of him. And there's just this great moment where Andrade just blasts him with an overhand chop. Again, the same thing that he did initially in the match, but this time, Gargano doesn't back down from it. He fires back with a super kick, hits a reverse Hurricane Rana, and then hits La Mystica into the Gargano escape. The crowd is so behind Gargano at this point, but then we get Zelina Vega interfering once again. She pulls Andrade's hand, trying to pull him toward the rope. That, of course, the referee goes to reprimand her for that, and it allows Andrade to go to the eyes with a great eye rake. Again, Andrade goes for the El Idolo. Gargano fights it off once again, backdrops him to the floor, hits a great tope to Andrade's back. And I loved this because, the early dive with the cannonball, off the apron a couple minutes into the match, Andrade saw coming. So here Gargano wastes no time, hits the dive to the back of Andrade so he can't be prepared for it, rolls him back in the ring, and then Zelina Vega, again, that clutch player that she is, hits the Hurricane Rana off the ring apron, sends, the already concussed Gargano headfirst into the ring steps, rolls him back into the ring. At this point, Andrade finally hits the El Idolo. This is a finish that they've used so many times, but it only gets 2. So Gargano somehow kicks out of it. Ends up rolling back out to the floor. We get a great moment, where Candice LeRae, who's at ringside, she had just signed with the WWE officially at this point. She's cheering on her husband. She jumps the rail and attacks Zelina and runs her through the crowd and just beats the hell out of her, to make this a fair one-on-one contest. So that was great. You love to see the wife stand up for the husband. Really, really, really good stuff. Gargano ends up getting, a flash in Sagiri while he's on the apron, hits the one final beat. It only gets 2. He grabs the Gargano escape. Andrade gets his foot on the ropes. So again, great near falls for Gargano with his signature moves. And then we get our finish, which is just, it's so good. Andrade goes back out to the apron after, breaking the Gargano escape. Gargano follows. He's hit that one final beat on the apron before. He knows he can do something big to put Andrade away, and he's going to need something big to put him away at this point. But Andrade just simply kicks him away, and Gargano falls backward into the LED ring post that's there, smokes the back of his head off of it. It looks brutal. It makes a great sound. Andrade then hits the double knees on the apron into that LED board. Again, then they're just really selling, the head trauma that Gargano's experienced. The referee, is checking on Gargano. They're putting it over on commentary that maybe the match needs to stop. And Gargano always, the resilient babyface says no, he wants to continue. But at this point, it's academic. Andrade simply pulls him up over the ropes, hits the hanging Elidolo, the move that won him the title. Gargano's not kicking out. It takes the wind out of the sails of everybody that wanted to see this dude win the title. But again, he fought to the bitter end for this. And this match does so much in legitimate, in making Andrade's title reign seem legitimate too, where he gets this big victory. Yes, there was the Zelina interference, but at the end, he did it by himself. Both guys come out of this match looking like $1 million. Both guys are elevated so much from this match, which is everything that a great wrestling match should do. The winner looks great, but the loser gets something out of that loss. We get this great post-match where the crowd is so, respectful for Johnny, and they give him a great ovation, and Candice comes back out to say she's proud of her husband, even though he lost. And then we get the big, we talk so much about the lower third in NXT, right? We get that lower third graphic, the announcers sign off, and then just like the initial attack at TakeOver Chicago, Tommaso Ciampa makes a shocking return off screen. You see the crutch come into view, hit Gargano, the camera pull back. There's Ciampa, who's made his return to attack his partner, just like he did in Chicago the night he went out for the injury. It's all so good. It's this great little cherry on top of a great match, very similar to the Kevin Owens turn on Sami Zayn after he won the title. And just if you add that on, because it does kind of fit in the story of the match, it puts it to another level. This match is excellent. It's everything I love about pro wrestling. It's great action. It's a great story. It's high drama. It's high emotion. It's a babyface you want to win. It's a great heel on the other end of the match. And it is a timeless classic. Both of these guys fizzled out in the WWE. Gargano's, away right now. He's a new dad. Congratulations to him. We don't know where he's going to end up. Will he go back to the WWE? Will he turn up in AEW? We will see. Andrade, of course, had kind of fizzled away on the main roster outside of some great matches with Rey Mysterio. Didn't really do much. Now he's in AEW. Also not doing too much there, so I don't know what the whole deal is with him. But, this is a match that if Gargano does end up in AEW, I hope we get to see on a high level again because the chemistry is there. These guys are amazing opponents for each other. And it's, if they could put forth a match anywhere close to this one ever again, we are in for quite the treat. This match, of course, you can watch it on Peacock. If you're outside the US, it's on the WWE Network. It's also available for free on YouTube, which is awesome. If you've never seen it, you owe it to yourself to watch it. I am very curious. Do you agree that this is the best NXT match of all time? Are there others that you would put above it? Feel free to let me know in the comments. You can subscribe to the channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And although we finished this countdown for Season 5, we will be back in short order. Season 6, the top 50 matches of 2021, coming your way very soon. Don't you dare miss it. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.